Hello, welcome to When the Smoke Clears. I am the Recovery Plug. What's going on, everybody? I hope everybody's day is going great. I know mine's going great. But before we get this video podcast started, if you would please join me in a moment of silence, followed by the serenity prayer for the addict who still suffers and for those of us who are still in the struggle. So if you would please, a moment of silence. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, wisdom to know the difference. Alrighty, well, let's get started. How's it going, man? I hope you guys are doing great, man. I know that I'm doing good, man. This weekend, Mother's Day weekend just passed by. I hope, happy Mother's Day to everybody, anybody out there who's a mom or, I hope that you guys had a good time on Mother's Day. You know what I mean? I know Mother's Day for some people can be a day of trigger and I'm fortunate that I still have my mom, and it was great to be able to talk to her on Mother's Day, and just a conversation. You know what I mean? I wasn't able to go and visit her, but I nonetheless got to talk to her, and that was great. And then talk to two of my daughters who are moms also, and yeah, so it's a good you know weekend, I guess, that a lot of people probably had, and I'm happy about that. But as far as today's video goes, man, you know what? It kind of on that, not necessarily no, but it's something that I was. There's a topic that I was reading about in one of the many books that I read. But one of the newest books that I'm reading happened to bring the subject up, and I just found it intriguing, and I figured that, you know what, I'm gonna talk a little bit about that and see what you guys think. You know what I mean? Maybe this will help you in your journey of recovery and spiritualities. Because I know that it has helped me, and the subject. I had no idea I was even really working on that subject and studying that subject, but turns out that we all do. You know what I mean? It turns out that we all do this, and it's going to be a great subject. So I can't wait to get into it. But anyway, here's the subject. What we're going to be talking about today is the subject of morality. You know what? Morality is one of those things that uh, I guess a lot of people kind of just they don't think about it much because it's something that it's almost like, okay, yeah, you're supposed to be doing this in a sense, but you'll find out that a lot of us don't work on it as much as we need to. You know what I mean? And if you spend just a little bit of time working on your morality, I can guarantee you, man, that if you do this on a consistent basis and just work on a little bit of this positive morality, your life will start changing. You know what I mean? And it's like I mentioned a few times before. Never when you do positive things do you get negative action. This negativity come back to you. You know what I mean? So I'm going to read here. Let me take these off for a second and put these on because we can't do anything without these, right? So again, and I'm just taking this definition here from the. Let me see. It's from the Cambridge, .org, and I looked up morality, and this thing says a set of personal or social standards for good or bad behavior and character. And I looked up another one, which was from the Britannica.com, and what they got down is morality is the moral beliefs and practices of a culture, community, or religion, or a code of systems for moral rules, principles, or values. The conceptual foundation and rational consistency of such standards are the subject matter of the philosophical discipline of ethics, also known as moral philosophy. In its contemporary usage, the term ethics is also applied to a particular moral code or systems and to the empirical study of their historical development and their social, economic, and geographical circumstances. And it says empirical studies show that all societies have moral rules that prescribe or forbidden certain classes of action, and that these rules are accompanied by sanctions to ensure their enforcement. It has been observed, for example, that virtually every society has well-established norms dealing with matters such as family or organizations and individual duties, sexual activity, property rights, personal warfare, truth-telling, and promise-keeping. Among all societies and moral rules are nearly universal. Such of those forbidding are murder, theft, infidelity, or adultery, or incest, while others vary between societies or exist in some societies but not in others, such as those forbidding polygamy, parricide, or feticide, abortion. And okay, so I guess you get the meaning of morality, and that those are just it's just code standards of the way you live, the way you present yourself, and the way you involve yourself in your life. You know what I mean? And this is a big one because, you know, I know that I know myself personally, when I was in the world of addiction, you know, a lot of the morality concepts and thought processes kind of, you know, went out the window. You know what I mean? You didn't really, those were things that really didn't exist in some cases. You know what I'm saying? And especially when they're talking about theft and sexual things and you know, being kind to others and that sort of thing. Because I know that when I was in the world of addiction, in the darkness, man, a lot of the time that I was there involved a lot of that stuff, sexual stuff, thieving, you know, not telling the truth, hurting people, you know what I mean, and hurting yourself, number one, and just, you know, distancing yourself from your quote unquote ethical or moral codes, right? Because when you were put yourself back into a situation in your life when you weren't using, you know, you were living your life this certain way. You know what I mean? You were living by the rules in a sense. And, you know, I could very much understand how using your morality is something that is an ongoing process. It's something that it's an everyday thing. You know what I mean? It actually is. You know what I mean? Because here's the thing. If you do good and you are kind to others, you are kind to yourself, you watch what you eat, you watch what you say, you watch what you do, you know, you in turn there start practicing and getting this positive, you know, aura about you. You know what I mean? Because nowhere in anything that I've ever experienced or ever read or heard people talking about being in this negative realm was any of there was nothing ever positive or nothing ever good that came to fruition that came through a negative aspect. You know what I mean? And you know, we all of us are born with some sort of moral rules, conduct, some sort of map, if you will, of what we have to follow and how we're supposed to live. You know what I mean? And you know, for the majority of us, you know, we've come from a family. We come from a mom. We have a mom. Some of us, you know, we have both parents. Some of us not. But nonetheless, when you were a young kid, there was morals. There was rules that you had to follow. And you did. You know what I mean? You were this innocent little person, and you knew right from wrong. You knew not to do this or not to do that. But somewhere along the line, as we get older, we start setting our own moral standards. And there's no rule. There's no unless you're getting into this religious aspect of it, right? That God says you can't steal, you can't commit adultery, and then yada yada yada. But so there's this foundation, right? Of moral ethical codes that we got to live by. And for some of us it's different, because some of us are Buddhists, some of us are Christians, some of us are Catholics, and we all have a different range. But nonetheless, around the world and around all these indigenous communities, moral codes are usually pretty much the same. You know what I mean? There's no lying, there's no stealing, there's no cheating, there's no killing, that sort of thing. You know what I mean? It's not condoned, if you will. So we all live with these codes, right? And I know that if you don't practice them, just like anything else, if you don't practice, you'll forget. Or you'll just throw them on the back burner and distance yourself from them. Especially when you're bound down to a struggle. No matter what it is, no matter what the struggle is. For me personally, it was drug abuse. And I know that when I indulge myself in that world, in that addictive mode, and a lot of the moral conduct that I knew right from wrong, I knew that I shouldn't be doing things that are hurting me, but I did them anyway, and I continued to do them even though I knew it was killing me. You know what I mean? So the way to deviate yourself from those sorts of actions is by continually improving your morality. And by continual improvement of morality means that you got to practice. You know what I mean? There's no other way around it. And there's no other way that things are going to get better for you or things are going to improve. Nothing's going to happen if you don't practice. Okay? And that's just the bottom line. That's the cold hard truth of being bound down to any type of addiction, is that if you don't practice morality, if you don't practice trying new positive actions, then nothing's going to happen. You know what I mean? And I know that I'm personally, myself, in my personal journey, I've been sober now for right about 1.5 years now, and by the grace of God, I got the second opportunity to live a life of great and positive morality. You know what I mean? I was able to, bring into fruition things that are happening in my life today through practice. You know what I mean? The things that I'm doing today and the places where I'm at now in the physical and in the here and now, and mentally and physically, wouldn't have been able to happen had I not practiced. You know what I mean? And it's because of the repetitiveness of doing positive actions every single day am I where I'm at now. You know what I mean? And the road is just vast. You know what I mean? I got plans, I got goals that are just out there. You know what I mean? And the thing is that I'm doing something about it every single day. I'm doing a little bit of something to get to those goals. And, since 1.5 years ago, I made it a goal that I was going to finish a treatment center. Then I made it a goal that I was going to go to a sober living community. And as much as I didn't want to, I made it a goal that I wanted to do that if it was going to better my life. And I did. And I did it. And I made it a goal that, by a certain time I wanted to move into my new place, and I have, you know what I mean, and I wanted, and I made it a goal that I wanted to do it not only for myself but for my daughter, because I wanted her to be with me, and she is with me, you know what I mean. So it's just practicing that life and that code, and the just living with those, with that morality, you know what I mean, with doing something positive every single day. And when you live with good moral ethics and codes in your life, then things happen. You know what I mean? You'll see that the roadmap of your life starts moving around, man. It just starts getting better and better, and that map starts, the road starts going further and further, because the more you get these goals that you set and that you start conquering them, then you want another one, and then you want another one, and then you want another one. And you want, man, next thing you know, you got these goals that are just, man, I'm going to do this. You know what I mean? When you start getting in that repetitive motion, man, and you start getting things that are bringing things that are in your heart and in your soul up into the living, into the present, into the here and now. And then you're just like, wow, man, I just feel this, I don't know, it's hard to explain the feeling that you get, because it's so, just not something that I personally was used to. You know what I mean? And to have these feelings of wanting to help people and wanting to help myself and better my life and better other people's lives with things that I have to share. You know what I mean? Because I know that I heard somebody's story one day. And that story, when I heard that story of that particular person, that was the day that my life started changing, because I decided that I wanted what they had, and ultimately that's the way we live. You know what I mean? We live in a world of storytelling, of copying, you know what I mean? And especially now with being able to get different practices from different people all over the world, with the age we live in today, being that you can get on YouTube or any place on the internet and find videos of people that are just talking and sharing these beautiful experiences and showing you how to do things for the positive to better your life in one way or another. That it's you get people from all cultures, and you can grab a little bit of here and a little bit of there, and mold your own self. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things that I find great, is that I'm able to now, in the here and now today, that I'm not the same person I was, a year and a half ago. You know what I mean? And because I got this second chance at life, I got this new slate, if you will, that I was able to just start working on myself and my morality and the way I lived for myself and for others, that I could just bring in all kinds of different practices and learn from other people, that, I can be who and whatever I want. You know what I mean? And how great is that? You know what I mean? How great is that at any moment in time, you can just, because of the way we live in our world today, because we're all influenced through our environment. You know what I mean? That's the world we live in today, is people live through their environment of the here and now. And unfortunately for a lot of people, it's not, some of it's not good, because a lot of the stuff that you see on in social media and all that kind of stuff, there is a lot of negativity, so you really have to be aware. But at the same token, if you just practice these spiritual and positive practices and be mindful and enlightened and helping people and helping yourself and just taking time for yourself, silence, of meditation, just different things that you can do throughout your life and throughout your day to better yourself, it is just amazing that we have that capability today. You know what I mean? It's weird to me that there's so many people starving for that type of life, and it's just a fingertip away. You know what I mean? It's like, Why do we live in a world that is so vast with all this positive stuff, but yet we find ourselves in this little secluded bubble? Because I know I was in that bubble, man. I was in that bubble for a long time. For 5 years, I relapsed, and I stayed in the relapse for 5 years, man, that was stuck in this little bubble that I couldn't get out of. And I'm just grateful to my higher power that today I'm able to do things, that I'm able to be out of that box, out of that bubble, that I'm not that, person that was just stuck in a motel room, just, constantly using, or jumping from one tent community to the next, or jumping from one motel room to the next, or from one bando to the next, and just doing things that were illegal and not good, and just consuming things that were just killing my body, every single day. And I'm just grateful by the grace of God that I'm able to get that second chance to, live a different way and to share the message. You know what I mean? To me, that's powerful. But so I just thought that I would talk a little bit about morality and how you can, it's not hard to look up morality and to dissect yourself in sections of moral conduct and where you put yourself, and then be aware of what you can do to fix it. You know what I mean? Because all it takes is a little bit of practice. And by practice, meaning that all it takes is for you to start doing positive and spiritual things every single day, even if it's just chanting a prayer, in the morning. But if you do this every single morning, I can guarantee you things will start turning for you. You know what I mean? And whether it's chanting a prayer, whether it's, helping somebody, making a point to help 2-3 people every day, whatever it is, even if it's just open somebody's door, you know what I mean? But by doing something like that, positive on a repetitious basis, man, you start mapping your brain for these beautiful things to start happening, because it gets you away from that negativity. And ultimately that's the key, you know what I mean? Is not to be in that darkness, in that negative world, and start doing positive things. And you can remap your morality map and codes. You know what I'm saying? But so I just wanted to bring that up, and I just thought it was something cool to talk about, because I know a lot of us we kind of let that go by the wayside sometimes. You know what I mean? And especially when you're in the world of addiction, like I was, you definitely just forget all about that. You know what I mean? Because it's sometimes the furthest thing from your mind. But I just figured I'd bring it up today, and hopefully it helps somebody. You know what I mean? But so I guess if you would, please, at this time, man, give me a thumbs up, hit my subscribe button, and share my channel. I'd greatly appreciate it, because it's the only way that we can, share the messages, by sharing. And so I guess until the next time on When the Smoke Clears, I guess I'll see you later. And I guess, again, until the next time on When the Smoke Clears, I am the Recovery Plug.